Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Martha Simmons with another session of Preaching and Preachers on Facebook Live via Restream. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Come on in and let me know that you are out there for a broadcast filled with a great deal of practical information. Good afternoon. Come on in and let me know that you are out there. Good afternoon. Good morning to my people on the West Coast. Shouting out the folk in the Midwest. Good afternoon. Come on in. Let me know that you are out there. Come on in. Happy to have you with me. Come on in. Come on in. Got a lot of information about so many things that are important to the church, clergy, lay folk. Come on in. All right, all right. I see people coming in slowly but surely. It's a sunny Monday in Atlanta, and I hope the weather is not too bad wherever you are. Come on in. Let me know that you are out there. And when you come in, type in the name of another person you know needs to view this broadcast. Come on in. Come on in. Didn't do as much publicity about today's broadcast as usual. It's got so much going on, but did want to bring you this information. Come on in. Come on in. Good, 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 good. I see folk coming in. And today, I also want to answer your questions. So put your questions in the chat and I'll get to as many of them as I can. Come on in. Come on in. I see you coming in slowly but surely. Come on in. Come on in. All right. All right. All right. All right. Let me go ahead and get started. As always, we are praying for those who are sick, praying for those going through a season of bereavement. This has been quite a season for the scholarly community. We recently lost Dr. David Daniels, Dr. Barbara Holmes, and Dr. Gustavo Gutierrez. Um, Quite a season of loss. Also, we are praying for Nigeria, Mali, and Niger. They're suffering from massive flooding. More than 250,000 people have been affected from the flooding. We are praying for those areas. We are praying, and of course, we are praying that people will get out and vote. If you have not voted, get out and vote. Reverend Tracy Brown, good to have you with me. Let's see, Valerie Williams, good to see you. Demetria Edwards, all right, all right. I appreciate you all coming in. And when you come in, type in the name of another person who you know will be helped by today's broadcast. Let me do a couple of quick announcements. This Thursday, not Friday, Thursday at 8 o'clock on the Women of Color in Ministry page. We're going to be talking to some outstanding sisters about faith and politics. Cedric Von Jackson, Pastor, it's good to have you with me. We're going to do that on the Women of Color in Ministry page at 8 o'clock. Please join me for these outstanding sisters who are going to talk to us about faith, politics, this election, and so much more. And then on November the 4th, join me for an amazing session on community engagement. How do you get work done with and in your community? Dr. Jacqueline Thompson, Bishop Talbert Swan, and others are going to talk to us about community engagement. I am so excited about that particular broadcast. Let's get to the word for today. Um, I already see questions coming in. I'll get to you in just a moment. Um, I'm always trying to get to the practical. We need to name problems, no doubt, but we also need solutions. It does not help us if we just name problems and do not offer solutions. So I titled this broadcast, How Do They Do That? In other words, how do people who do these things successfully, how do they do them? And how can you do them as well? First thing I want to mention, because I get a call probably every other month, and this has been happening for years, but certainly um, during COVID-19 and after, asking how can I find a good intern for my church? Doc, I need some interns. I need help. And then you've got the people who can find interns and it's not a problem. And I'm not talking about the mega churches. We know they can find them because they can pay. I'm talking about churches with 30 members, 50 members, 100 members. How do you, a couple of hundred members, mid-sized churches and small churches, how do you find good interns? Not staff people, paid staff people, etc. Not those, but an intern, somebody who is probably in seminary, maybe in a PhD program, or perhaps in a local college or university. Of course, the easiest way to find these individuals is to pay something, even if it's only a small stipend, to pay something. And then, because these people are interns, they're not 40-hour-a-week employees, don't work them to death. That's the other way you can get good interns, because when you get interns and you mistreat them, trust me, the word goes out on the street about you and how you treat your interns, okay? Interns only work 10 to 15 hours a week. They're interns because, like I said, most of them are in school somewhere, and that we want that to be their first priority. Then, when you're looking for interns, please be resume specific and not all over the place. You can't get an intern who does everything. You might have to get multiple interns, but don't try to make one intern do everything. I mean, I've seen posts where people will say, we are looking for a youth pastor who understands technology, who can build a youth group and lead our youth choir. Come on, people. That's excessive. It's excessive. No one person is going to give you all of that. So be resume specific for the one, maybe two things that you want, okay? And don't ask for four things, because you can't pay for four things. You really can't. And trust me, this generation, the younger generation, they will quit if you try to abuse them. In fact, they may just ghost you altogether, okay? So you're looking for PhD students. They often need to earn extra money, but they will have to stop often when they start writing. So be flexible if they are doing good work, because again, as I said, education is first. Education is first. Okay. Also, concerning interns, do not try to make them members of your church and baptize them, license them, ordain them, unless that's what they want. If they bring it up, that's different. but don't you bring it up. They are not there for that. They are there to help you in your pastoral duties. And you need to remember that and respect that. Okay? Respect that. Then another way you find interns is just to post on message boards everywhere. All of the schools have some type of message board for people seeking employment, right? So post on the message boards of those schools, post on the message boards of colleges, university. Here in Atlanta, we've got Georgia Tech, Georgia State, we've got Emory, then we got seminaries. You want to post on all of those message boards depending upon what you are looking for. You know, some of you are just looking for people with great tech skills. So you don't have to go to the seminaries necessarily to get that. You're just looking for people doing a specific task. Also, word of mouth is good. Word of mouth still works. It still works. Um, and but again, you've got to be resume specific. Get the word from people you know and respect, who've had good interns and understand the process well. Okay. Just understand also, when you're going word of mouth, people might have someone that they're trying to get a job for, and they might like that person, but they don't know much about their work ethic or their skill set. So be careful with that. Let's see, I saw a question. Let's go to now. How do you get invited to conferences and denominational gatherings to speak, do a workshop, etc., and you don't have a big church and you don't have relationships with well-known clergy? How do you do that? And I'm asked this all the time. Doc, I want to do this. I want to speak here, and etc. How do I do that? First of all, let me make clear there is nothing wrong with believing that you have something important to offer to the world and wanting to share it. There is nothing wrong with this. This is not like telling somebody you want to preach at their church. This is not that. This is you're simply wanting to be public in, you know, with institutions on stages that you know will help get the word out about what you do. And you know, Pete, there's some people who genuinely just want to spread great news and great messages. Okay, so it makes sense. It makes sense. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not showing off or anything. It makes sense to do. I thank God every time I see someone make a great presentation to a great workshop about things that are important. Okay. It makes sense to do. Okay. But it does not make sense to post all over Facebook and Instagram that people should invite you to do a workshop or to preach. That's not how you do it. That's not the best way. Okay. So if you do not have any relationship with well-known clergy and you are not well known, you don't have a big church, etc., how do you do that? How do you get invited to speak at conferences? And I want to also say there's a wave on Instagram and IG of these white companies that are selling their services, and the services range from 4,000 to 10,000, and they tell you they will get you speaking engagements. And what they're doing is they're providing you a speakers list. Most of the places will be white, and those speakers lists are all over the place anyway. Don't pay that kind of money. That's a scam. Don't do it. Don't do it. I don't care how desperate you feel. Do not pay. When you see them on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever you see them, don't pay for those services. That's a trick. It's a scam. Okay. It is a scam. You might get 3, 4 engagements and you've spent $7,000 to $10,000 getting them, and even the return on what you might get paid is very, very small. So don't get tricked by that. Okay. How do you do it? How do you do it? First of all, you need to have something special to offer. That's the big one that folks miss. It doesn't matter if you are doing what someone else is doing, because the bottom line is that you are you and they are them. There's enough room out there for some of us to do the same things. The issue is, do yours differently and do it well. Okay. And let's go. Okay, I said I was going to answer some questions. Someone asked, how do you appropriately ask a pastor you follow to mentor you in the ministry? And they said, of course, this is in addition to your own pastor. That's a tricky one. It's a really tricky one because there are pastors who do not want others mentoring their clergy. When I first started mentoring clergy, there were pastors who actually told me to stay away from their women clergy. They did not want me mentoring them. So I backed off because I'm never going to disrespect someone's pastor. All right. And now, of course, they don't have a problem calling me and asking me to mentor their women. But Shay, I would say this: have a conversation with that person you want to mentor you and get an understanding of what area you want mentorship in. And then make sure that your pastor has never expressed any problems with anyone providing you mentorship in a specific area, but not all areas of ministry. And then just reach out to the person. If you can get an email address, that's best. Don't text people. Don't just come into their inbox. All of that's too informal. All of it's too informal. So that's the best way to do it, is to reach out to the person, make sure you're not disrespecting your pastor, and then look at one main area where you need mentorship. It may be in the area of being a better leader, maybe in the area of being a better preacher. You may be learning how to do workshops. You may want to learn in a specific field. It may be chaplaincy. So make sure you do that one thing. So you also not overwhelming the person who probably has a lot of folk who want the same thing you want. Okay. All right. So how do you get invited to these conferences, conventions, to do workshops? Number one, like I said, have something special to offer. So it just, this is a season of conferences. Everyone is doing a conference. And I mean, everyone. I have never in my life seen so many conferences. That means that there are many opportunities. Okay. But if you want to get invited to do something, first of all, people need to know that you are out there. I am always stunned by how many people are not on Facebook, not really on Instagram, not on X, not on TikTok, and yet They think somehow what they have to offer is so special, people will just know it. That is not how the real world works. You've got to get out there and put out there consistently what it is that you have to offer. And like I said, offer something special, not here are 3 rules of leadership for women. Women have heard that a million times, or here's how to be a better husband. Men have heard that 100 times, okay? Offer something special. Tell people how to get a real job in ministry as a chaplain, etc. Teach pastors how to use the 5 latest AI products. Tell people how to do a good stream. Those are the things people really need. And if you do them, if you offer those and you are out there, people will see you. Okay. Do work. And the other thing about conferences is that all conferences have a focus. They have a focus. So make sure you are doing work in the area of focus for the conference where you want to speak. If it's an AI conference, do tech conference, do tech and AI work. If it's a preaching conference, make sure that you are doing something in the area of preaching that's special, not just I'm a pastor, I preach. Okay, so do thousands of other people. Make it special. Okay, make it special. And then also know that there are conferences and conventions and denominational gatherings at all levels. At all levels. You can't start with Hampton and say, oh, that's my first level, but you can start at your local level and do some workshops, and you may not get paid major money, but you are building a resume. And if you do good work, the word will get out about you. It doesn't matter if you're a woman, male, young, old. If you're doing good work and you are out there, like I said, you've got to be out there. Can't just be in your house telling yourself and your friends how great you are. So, also, if you are in a particular denomination, do some work in your denomination and get known for doing certain types of work. Someone asked, what leadership book would you recommend for women in ministry? The previous question was, doing the deed still relevant for preaching today? Doing the deed is still relevant because it's a 1, 2, 3 on how to preach better. Okay. It doesn't mean that some new things haven't come along. During the deed opens actually with talking about the advent of speed and its impact on preaching. Now, if I did it again, I'd talk about cadence and how it has democratized preaching and taking over the place of hooping in many quarters. In terms of leadership books for women in ministry, I don't know that I'd look at it as just about leadership books as much as I'd look at it as an approach to doing ministry well. And maybe you call that leadership. But what I think is that women need to read text that help empower them so they can power others. And that can include all kinds of texts, theological texts, texts on ethics, texts, like I said earlier, on chaplaincy, texts on a variety of things. So look at the areas that you want to grow in and look for those books instead of some one-shop stop thing on leadership, because most of the leadership models are male models. They're male models. So, and even some of the books by women on leadership, those are male models. Okay. Let's see. Someone else said, and this is a great thing. You can also, this is a part of being out there, you've got to do some networking. You can't just stay at your house, stay at your church, and think that everything will open up. Networking has always worked. And you can't be afraid to go up, introduce yourself to people, exchange emails, exchange numbers, exchange websites. Do it. Nothing may come of it, but something could come of it. You never know when someone is going to need someone in an area and they say, well, I can't think of anyone. Wait a minute. I've got this person's information on my phone. They do X, Y, or Z because you network. So if you're in fraternities, sororities, all kinds of academic groups, your AAR is coming up. Do the networking. The Academy of Homiletics is coming up. Do the networking. It matters. It matters. Okay. It definitely does matter. So those are ways for people trying to get out there who have something good to offer and just want to share good work with others. Don't be ashamed of it. Put it out there consistently. Can't put a post up in October and one in November and one in December, all right? It has to be consistent. It has to be something that's done regularly, and people will start to say, whoa, wait a minute, this person does this well. I've found some great guests for my broadcast off Facebook and Instagram. And then I could check further into their resumes. So just know that. Just know that. How do you get likes on Facebook and Instagram? This is kind of tied to what I just spoke about. How do you get likes? And please know, and I, because I know this talk is out there, there is nothing wrong with wanting people to connect with you about what you believe and work that you are doing. There is nothing wrong with that. And that's all a Facebook or a like or whatever. That's all that is. People saying, amen, I agree, etc. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. So how do you do it on Facebook? Again, consistency. Consistency. This is Dr. Martha Simmons with another session of Preaching and Preaching on Facebook Live. If you are on, type in the name of another person who you know will be helped by this broadcast. It will be up on my page for 2 weeks and people can check it out in their leisure. How do you get likes on Facebook, Instagram, etc.? You got to be on them. You got to be out there consistently. And then you have to always offer work and information that people need, that people want, that people are helped by, okay? So that means putting up strong, good content consistently, not something that everyone else is doing, or at least don't do it the same way everyone else is doing it, because the Facebook streets can get crowded. The Instagram streets can be crowded. Again, like I said, you want to do something special. At least don't do it the same way as everyone else is doing it. And if you want also to raise your profile on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, etc., videos work better than words. Just know that. Videos work better than words. So if all you do is offer text, that will not get you as much interest as a video. As a video, you can get 300 views with a video about without doing too much of anything. Okay, I see people doing videos. I'm in the grocery store. Okay, People don't know what you were going to say, but they tuned in just because they saw it's a video and they're saying, okay, let me check this out. Okay, let me check that out. But if you do too many bad videos, then they'll stop checking out your videos. Also, and this common sense to me, like and support the material of others. People see, they really do see when you support them. Okay. And I see the emails not the emails, the Facebook posts all the time where people say, and so did this and they didn't get any likes. That does not get you likes. That does not get you likes. Okay. Support the work of others. Support the work of others. And then you become someone worth supporting. And then post across multiple platforms. We know that Facebook is the platform for older people. So you got to, if you want to get out there, you got to post on Instagram, you got to post on TikTok, you got to post on YouTube, you got to post on multiple platforms. And Substack is now a place where people are putting articles and writing. If you want your writing out there, that's a good place to put it. That's a good place to put it. Okay. And someone said, engage the people who comment on your post. And that also, see, I've got smart viewers. That also increases your content exposure. Okay. So if you want to get out there and get likes, those are some ways that I've seen work again and again and again. All right. How do preachers close well without hooping or screaming? Okay. How do you do that? And I've written about this in Doing the Deed and in classes I've taught. This is not about whether you can hoop. Most preachers do not hoop and cannot hoop. Let's be clear on that. In 2024, people cannot do it and they do not do it. Okay. So when I talk about closing well, understand that I love hooping. I've written about it. I'm always talking about it. I love hooping. I really, really do. Okay. But here's the thing, and we really need to get clear on this and look at the data, not just what we think. You do not need hooping to close well. You absolutely, positively do not. You do not need to hoop, okay? In fact, we know that there are people who can hoop, but that's all they can do. They have nothing to say, and you can tell that they don't read much because their sermons are so thin. Okay? You don't need to hoop. And if you don't hoop, don't try it. Do not try it. Okay? Someone said you got to preach with sacred fire to close. Well, I love that clip, putting in the name of the anthology in the comment, Curtis Bryant. And I'll go ahead and share this good news. We are in discussions right now with a publisher to bring back Preaching with Sacred Fire. Okay. I'm really, really excited about that. Let me say, how do you close well? How do you close a sermon well? You can close a sermon with a celebration, a challenging question, which is sometimes also called a call to action, or a lament. Every sermon can't close with hooping and hollering or celebration. Sometimes you just need to lament and sit with the people. Okay, very quiet closings, right? But whatever you do as a close, and make sure you've decided it in advance. It didn't just happen. Decide in advance whether you're going to celebrate, do a call to action, or do a lament or quiet close. If you are closing with a celebration, just do that. Just do that. Don't go back into the sermon, or the body of the sermon, rather. The time for admonitions and challenges, that's over. You finished that part of the sermon. If you're closing with celebration, just celebrate, okay? And avoid use of things like, and the problem with what us is, and what we need to do is, no, all of that's over. That's in the earlier body of the sermon. If you're going to celebrate, just celebrate. Watch your words. The celebration, the close, is not a place for admonition. You did that already in the earlier part of the sermon. Now, all you need is a good transition sentence to your close. And remember, celebration, if you're celebrating now, I'm not talking about call to actions and laments. If you're celebrating, it's the highest point in the sermon in terms of voice inflection and energy intensity. Okay. I'll also, because I've seen this a couple of times, please, if you are Christian clergy and you're closing in celebration, do not try to top the resurrection. You can't go any higher than that. So don't do the resurrection. It didn't land the way you thought it was going to. And then you try to do another celebration on top of that. No, that is not going to work. Okay. You're doing two closes. Do one. That's enough. If it worked well, that's great. If it didn't, you'll live to preach another day. And so don't worry about it. Okay. Another good way to do a close, even if you can't hoop, is to draw it from the text. Draw it right out of the text if you can, especially if it's a celebration. If it's in that text, draw it right from there. If it's in the larger part of a pericope, draw it from there. And then, if only in rare circumstances should you go to another text altogether and get your celebration or your close. Okay. So and make sure that your celebration, your call to action, or even your lament, make sure that it concerns what you said you were going to preach about and the text you chose. If the text and the entire sermon concerns justice, the celebration, the close, should not be about getting a breakthrough. Right? You're trying to get a circle done. Every sermon can't be about getting a breakthrough or giving God some glory. It just cannot. The Bible is bigger than that. The lives of people are bigger than that. The needs of people are bigger than that. I was watching Marcus Cosby's Wednesdays in the Word. He's celebrating his 20th anniversary. And Dr. Jacqueline Thompson was on, and she did a marvelous sermon, and she closed with an altar call for those who are just tired in this season. And when I was thinking about some of the deaths that I've experienced recently, my hands went up. Sometimes you're just tired. Doesn't mean you don't believe God. Doesn't mean that you don't have a praise in your belly. Sometimes you're just tired. And she prayed for all the people who are tired. And it was such a wonderful pastoral move. Okay. So there are various ways to close. There are various ways to close a sermon. Most importantly, and I think this is where people do all the discussion of, Doc, do I need to hoop? Is because people don't understand that if you're celebrating, not giving you a lament or a call to action, you want to lean into your energy. People did not come to church, did not tune into your stream for you to put them to sleep. They really did. And it doesn't matter if you have a booming voice or a soft voice. Lean into your energy. I often tell preachers when I'm doing sessions, and I've got one coming up in 4 or 5 days, who say, I'm not a loud preacher. I'm not. And I said to them, if they called you and said that you hit the lottery for 50 million, you wouldn't be quiet about it. You wouldn't be timid. I don't care how soft your voice is. Lean into your energy. And if you need to practice leaning into your energy, practice leading into your energy. That's what people are looking for in terms of that conclusion. All right. How do people put memorable lines in almost every sermon? How do they do that? How do they do that? Those lines that you just never forget. Now, of course, in sermon writing, you want to make sure that the entire sermon is memorable. That goes without being said, although I just said it. But a good tool is to do a line by line read after you have finished your sermon to see if you could have said something better, to see if you could have given more energy to something instead of just these general lines that we use to preach. Jesus loves his children. True, but general. The world needs more justice. True, but general. God wants us to help the poor. True, but general. Be specific. Be specific. If you want people to remember what you said, be specific. And every now and then, do those lines that are memorable and they push a point forward that you're trying to get people to remember. Jesus came from Nazareth. General statement, true. That Negro from Nazareth, you're going to remember that line, okay? And Dr. Matt King Carter did that Negro from Nazareth, and others have done that line. You remember that. God is the ground of our being, is stronger than, and that's Paul Tillich, God is our creator. Stop doing these general lines. And yes, you can repeat someone else's lines. If you hear someone else do a great line, just give them credit and use it. Okay? And often the best lines, and some people call these punch lines, I'm not using that for you, I'm just saying, they come from illustrations. They come from illustrations. That's how you can get some of your best lines. And you can go check this one out now. Willie Francois is online, and he does this illustration about a man shouting, "Thank you, Jesus," on a plane. And ultimately, they end up in a discussion, and the man is still going, "Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus." So finally, he said, he had to ask the man, why do you keep saying, "Thank you, Jesus"? The man told him, see that building down there, that's Rikers prison. And the man said, 6 months ago, I was in Rikers for a crime that I didn't commit. The man said, but now, a place where I used to be trapped in, I'm now flying over it. And Willie Francois transitioned to I'm over it. I'm over it. He did a whole run on I'm over it. He said, whatever you used to be trapped in, now tell yourself you are over it. You're over the debt. You're over the divorce. You're over the regret. You are over it. People will remember that line because of the illustration, as well as how well he pulled out a line and continued to work with it. All right. Also, if you're looking for memorable lines for sermons, you've got to read. You've got to read. Okay? You can get some off YouTube, some off listening to sermons, etc. But also you got to read. I did a whole book of sermon illustrations, 500 plus sermon illustrations. You can get that. It's on Amazon. You've got to read, and then read some of everything. There are great lines in some of everything. There are even great lines in newspapers, comic books, romance novels. Just read until great lines start to stick in your mind. Okay. You got to do some reading. And then the great lines will start to come to you. They'll start to come to you. Also, use a little bit of midrash every now and then, meaning you are basically reading between the lines and seeing what was unspoken as a story is told. And our grandparents and great grandparents with less education than we have, they were great midrash teachers in so many instances. And if you don't really understand what midrash is about, go to Will Gaffney's Womanist Midrash, a reintroduction to the women of the Torah and the throne. Somebody put that in the chat. It's Will Gaffney, Womanist Midrash. And she does masterful work on modern midrash. Yes, midrash was around. It's been around thousands of years. And the Jews, they had a whole system of midrash teaching and writing. Okay. So just understand that there are ways to get to lines, and also you can use props that lead you to lines. The great Sandy Ray preached a sermon titled "The Testimony of a Towel." He did a whole sermon. Talking about and to a towel. Okay. So you want to check that one out. Also, make sure that you're doing each line on purpose. Do it on purpose. You want great lines in your sermons, do it on purpose. Do it on purpose. It won't just happen. You have to do it on purpose. I remember the late, great Charles Adams always telling students, and when you finish writing that sermon, go back. If you haven't used it at all, go use a thesaurus. Go use a thesaurus, okay? And see if you can get better words, okay? Instead of the ones you used, there are better words, and you'll get from better words to better lines. And then you've got to be a good exegete of your text and culture. So so you're not coming up with thin lines and cheap lines and lines to bash people. You want to be a good exegete. And there's, a whole exegetical process. I'm not going into that. But we need to do a better job than what we're doing with exegesis. Someone posted the other day about wrestling with text. And basically, The people were out there to shoot the person down. No, don't be wrestling, etc. And so, of course, I said there are texts that we can wrestle with, the text of the Syrophoenician woman, as well as slaves return to your masters. And this person said, when Paul told the slave to return, he told him that he told his master that, the slave was to be a friend. And I'm thinking to myself, are you serious? That is your exegesis of that text, and you are done? You really believe that overseers, people who owned people, that the Bible told those people, go back. If you ran away, go back and tell the master to be your friend. Come on now. Come on. We've got to do better exegesis. We've got to do better exegesis and exegete the culture too. Okay? The Bible is this book where God spoke, but God is still speaking. God is still speaking. You've got to know, you've got to understand your culture, and don't sit there and insult your culture. Okay. So all of those things will help you get more memorable lines in your sermons. All of those things will help you. How do people make a difference in their denomination? Oh, they're young, they're under 40. Let me do this one pretty quickly, but I do. This is something I'm asked all the time. Doc, how can I do X, Y, and Z when I'm not this age? I don't have a big church, and etc. First thing I'm going to tell younger folk, if you want to do something big in your denomination, stop dragging your denomination. That's just it. Stop dragging your denomination, right? And there's a difference between making your denomination live up to what it should be as a denomination and dragging your denomination. And you all know the difference. So young people, you can't have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot say, I want to drag the leadership of my denomination, but I want them to put me in charge of something major. It doesn't work like that. It's not going to happen. Okay? That's not going to happen. And then if you want to get something done in your denomination, you want to get noticed in your denomination for doing good work, build something. Don't wait on anybody to tell you what it is. Build something. Go ahead and build something. It may be an online class, and people will take note if you are consistent about your good work. Okay? The last thing I want to say about young people also getting ahead is stop saying that you want to get in the denominational hierarchy or whatever you call it and make change, and then you get in there and all you are doing is falling in line with what the old heads did. That's all you're doing. That's all you are doing. Okay. So don't do that either. I've seen a lot of people get into denominational positions, and before they got into those positions, they were going to turn the world upside down. And the minute they got into that hierarchy, they did nothing. So be very careful about that. Then the last thing I want to speak about is preaching text in an alternative way. Some call this preaching against the text. In some instances, again, you can use midrash to do this. This is not about whether you got something brand new to say that hadn't been said in a couple of thousand years. This is about using a different lens and a different hermeneutic to say it. All right. Because again, God is still speaking. God is still speaking. And God is saying something different than some of the things that were said 2,000 or more years ago, right? So think about saying something alternatively in an alternative way, which again requires exegesis. It requires exegesis. It really, really does. It requires exegesis. So lean into, I know there are preachers out there, they're leaning into their sound. They're leaning into finding a good illustration. They're leaning into memorable lines in their sermons. But if you really want to lean into some place first that will always pay dividends, lean into exegesis. Buy more books on exegesis. And it's got to be the type of exegesis that will help your congregation. Okay. It can't be the exegesis that enslaves and oppresses people, because we got some exegesis books out there like that too. All right. It's got to be those kinds of texts. Lean into exegesis. If you are not strong in exegesis and you know it, you don't have to run around telling everybody. Just go do the work. Just go do the work, and you will learn, because you're a good exegete, how to look at text in broad ways. Someone was telling me about a sermon on Mrs. Job that Reverend Tisha Dixon Williams just did at the Mixed Methods Conference that Frank Thomas hosted. And people were talking about, continuously, I've never heard Job like that before. I've never heard Job like that before. And there were some older people saying, I've never heard Job like that before. And the way she got there was using a womanist lens, which means she saw the importance of safeguarding the lives, the reputations, etc. of women. She didn't demean men to do it, but she saw the importance of doing that. She used a womanist lens. And again, if you're going to do good exegesis, you've not only got to read the books on exegesis, you've got to read across culture if you want a wide lens, okay? If you want a wide lens. So, the kinds of things that you need to read. And, everybody's talking about Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, The Message. I haven't read it, but everybody's talking about it being good. I am reading. I keep going, reading it, picking it up, putting it down, because that's how I read these days, doing the best I can. I no longer can read a book a week. I don't know if that's aging or just busy, but The 100 Years War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. The 100 Years War on Palestine, just breathtaking. Just breathtaking. For those who want to know more about what's happening between Israel, Palestine, etc. And this was a big piece of what Ta-Nehisi Coates, what got his book featured even more, was him talking about the apartheid that is there in Palestine. So that's a great book. Another one, again, I keep opening it. I'm just about through with this one, though. And I think it's been out several years. The Anxious Generation. The Anxious Generation, how the great rewiring of childhood is causing an epidemic of mental illness. The Anxious Generation, and that's Jonathan Haidt, Hai, as an Indian, D, as in Tom. The Anxious Generation, just a very clear way of understanding some of what's going on in the world and broadening your preaching and teaching lens. Someone said, what are some good commentaries? They're just, I'll be on here all day trying to name good commentaries. I would just say this, that Belief Commentary series is very good. Belief. That Belief Commentary series, particularly acts by Willie Jennings and Gutierrez. I can't even think of his first name now. The piece that he did, but there are several. I've got 4 or 5 of those books out of that commentary series. But there are good commentaries out there. There are commentaries on individual books. There's some. I've got good commentaries by the interpreter's commentary, the anchors, but most of the commentaries that I buy are individual books, one at a time. Okay, and that's expensive. That's really expensive. So if you got to start somewhere, I'd say start with that Belief set of commentaries, and then also just in terms of reading and widening. If you're not a reader, you run out of time, reading is not your thing, listen to it on Audible. Listen to it while you're sitting in the house, driving, whatever. I guess I can say listen while you're driving. Be safe. But listen on Audible. Listen to some things if you can't get into doing a lot of reading, okay? And make sure, if you want to preach text in an alternative way to what you've always heard, because you think there's something particular that needs to be said to the culture, something very specific, make sure that you're looking at the lives of others, not just you and your tribe or your kin and your kind, but everybody. It's always interesting to me when I hear sermons. The people in America, we're always the Hebrews. We're never Pharaoh. We are always the faithful disciples. We're never Judas. But if you look at our country and its actions, especially towards the poor and the oppressed, you know that that's not true. And if you want to make sure you're standing on God's side on issues, not my side, the Democratic side, or the Republican side, you've got to make sure that you can see the entire culture well as God sees it. That's it. That's it for me. Thank you for hitting my Cash App. I'm an independent scholar, so I really appreciate it when you do that. It helps me to pay guests. Yes, I have to pay a lot of the people who come on my broadcast, and you help me do that. Even if it's only $5, it is appreciated, okay? And again, let me repeat, join me this Thursday on the Women of Color in Ministry page on Halloween. We're going to talk about faith and politics with some outstanding sisters, as election day is right around the corner. And last but not least, as I always say, share the video. It won't cost you anything. Share the video. You can help. God bless. Have a great week. And I'm looking to see you Thursday, 8 o'clock on the Women of Color in Ministry page. Take care, everybody.